Today is the life section of change and growth. And this is the question I want to ask. How do you grow above the stage of life? How do you make decisions that are relevant? How do you make a responsive decision that affects the failure of life to produce success? How do you change the past of failure into the future of success? How do you forgo decision? How do you forgo certain decision of life of the past to renew a new decision that benefits the fulfillment of life? How do you stand among your friends to be more important? How do you raise yourself from being nothing to being something? And this is the most important decision of life. When I was lost of self-esteem, I had no way to believe if I could raise myself from being nothing in life to being something. And this is what I want to tell you today. As we make our way through life, as we make our ways through life to achieve our ambition, our dreams, our visions that fulfill us, that fulfill our life obligations, there are things to remember. As we go on with our dreams and ambition to fulfill the goals and path of our lives, there are things to remember, and there are things not to remember. Everything that are structured to be remembered are important to life accomplishment, and they are called the necessary of life. Everything that are meant not to be remembered, everything that are designed not to be remembered, they are called the distraction of life, which become the unnecessary of life. Unnecessary things are always beautiful and classic. Unnecessary things are always beautiful and classic in appearance to distract life attention. Beautiful things are sometimes the most unnecessary things, and that has to do with decision we make. It is not all decision that appears in life that seems to be the moment is necessary for the future. It is not all action of life that you must take today. It is not every start in life. It's a fulfillment of the future. And this saved me time and life. It saved me time and increased my value in society. It makes me see life in a different content, different from the expectation of society. That's why today I speak with wisdom rather than conceptions. And God told me this. He said, the only way you can change the future is to understand what to remember and what not to remember. And the moment God told me that, I became questioning of myself. I have to question myself. What is to be remembered to serve as the necessary of life decision? What should I remember to be the necessary of life decision? And what should I not remember to become the unnecessary of life decisions? And I wonder, it took me years to calculate my mind, to convince my mind, to convince myself. It took me years to make a decision how to transform my life from being nothing to something. From being overlooked, from being abused, from being condemned among friends, to become more valuable among friends, to be the decision among friends and people who are older than me. So sometimes I wonder, why can I, in my 20s, how can I talk to a 60 years old man and he see the wisdom in my language? Why am I so powerful to speak? Why is my language, my appearance so powerful that when I appear, people are inspired, they are impacted by the wisdom of God gift? Why? Because I make the decision that there are things to remember and there are things not to remember, because they are the unnecessary act of life. Everything that is done in life is controlled by two decisions of life. Everything that is done in life is controlled by two decisions in life. And these two decisions of life is what determine the future. It's what determines how the future ends. It's what built the future for the new for transition. Transition is always based on two decisions of life. And they are the necessary and the unnecessary act of life. And when God told me this, He said, you will change the world. But if you must change the world, you must remember there are things to consider and there are things not to consider in life. And I went on my knees and cried to God, what are those things that I must consider? He said, whatever that does not build your reputation is not to be considered. Whatever that does not build the reputation of the path you are on is not meant to be considered. That's why some people ask me, why you don't accept everything in life? Why you always give opposite results? And they are always impactful and different from conceptions. They are different from conception and point of view. They are all reality. And I told someone, the reason why I speak from reality is because I am using my gift and the gift, and I'm using my purpose to achieve the fulfillment of what I was born to accomplish for God's glory. I speak not of my own words, but I speak the words of my gift. And God told me that I have set you aside to be the liberator of many nations and people in the world. He said, you will stand to liberate people. You will give people a new life, a freedom of new life again. You will restore people from hurt to give them a life of understanding with wisdom. And I went on my knees and cried to God, God, this tax is too big for me. And God said, your life will always be affected by everything I tell you today, because you are choosing to fulfill a tax. But remember, there are things to remember and there are things not to remember. And everything you must remember, there must be the necessary of life. And that has to be the friends. What kind of friend do you remember? What kind of friendship do you remember? What kind of communication do you remember? Whatever you remember is what builds your future. And whatever you don't remember should be the unnecessary of your life goals. And I told God, I am well pleased with you, God. I have accepted you. Every advice you give me, oh God, I've accepted it. And I have to make the decision. It took me 1 year to make a decision. And the moment I make the decision today, I can tell what to consider and what not to consider in my life. I laugh for everything, but that does not mean that I have accepted it as a conclusion of my life. I laughed. I listen to everybody. I laugh at everything. I even make joke and even try to make it be understandable. But that doesn't mean that I have accepted it to be the conclusion of my life. It's not everything that I hear, I accept it as a conclusion of my life. Sometimes I just want it to end. Sometimes I just want this. Sometimes just some friends when they try to advise me, they try to talk to me. I just listen because I don't want to be disrespectful. But that doesn't mean I have taken it to be the conclusion of my life, because the conclusion of my life is based on the path that I am driving to. Whatever I was born to be, or whatever you was born to be, will always show you the necessary and the unnecessary that connects you with your value. Wherever you were born to be, it will always show you the connection between your value and fulfillment of that value you possess. Every story of your life is designed with a path that you have to take necessary over things that are destructive and beautiful as a classic to distract you. You must let some things go, because there are things you must not listen to. There are things you must not accept. There are things you must not pay attention to. There are things you must not live through. It's not everything you must live through. There are things that you must decide if it must live through you. You don't go into life to decide. You must decide before you get into life, so that you have control over whatever comes into life. I repeat again, you must never go into life to decide. You must decide before you get into life, so that you have control over whatever that comes into life, so that you become an influence, so that you become necessary to whatever action that takes place in life. And this is what protects me every day. I decide what is necessary into life, because I make decision before I get into life. Before I could build my business, I never go into business before I build a decision. I built the decision. I accepted the decision. I analyzed the decision before I went into it. And this changed my life. The foundation of life is the fulfillment we have abandoned. And everything you abandon in life today is never too far from what you expect. It's always close to what you have not paid much attention to. And that has to do with your future, your dream, the fulfillment of your life, and also the passion and purpose that God has assigned you to achieve. And this is the path where I have to question everything in life. But remember now, whenever life is questioned, it's because of ignorance. Whoever question life is questioning God, because God is life. Whoever question life is questioning because of ignorance. Ignorance is the ability to, it's the act of abandoning the truth to accept conceptions. Whenever conception is accepted, ignorance is established. But whenever reality is accepted, wisdom become the appearance of fulfillment. That's why no matter who stands before me, I know how to touch them. No matter who stands before me, I know how to influence them. Because why? Because I am built on the foundation of reality. Not conception, not point of view, not intellectual. Because I am not an IQ. And I don't want to be an IQ. I'm an EQ. I'm more emotional. I touch people emotion because emotion is more important than academic. Emotion. Everybody is affected by emotion. That's why I'm designed to affect people emotion. I affect emotion because emotion is the key source of life. Emotion hurt is more dangerous than an IQ hurt. Because in IQ, you can restore. But when your emotion is destroyed, you become hurtful with depression forever. That's why I am built to touch the emotion of people, not to touch the minds of people, which is conception. I'm not here to argue on the. I don't go into life to argue on conception. I go into life to address emotions, to touch emotion. That's why I can affect many people emotion today. Because no matter your age, no matter what stands before me, the moment I speak, I will impact your emotion. And that's the gift that God has given me. I am not academic. I'm not academic smart, and I don't want to be. You can be the best writer. You can be the best academic person, but I want to be the best emotional impactor. I want to impact people emotion. So because whenever your emotion is hurt, life restructure you to see the reality and the pieces you are missing. I am more emotional express than I am academic. That's why I don't speak with conception. I speak with emotional hurt. Everything about my life is always hurt by emotion. Everything about my life is always affected by emotion. As a matter of fact, decisions are also affected by emotion. I use emotion because it's my emotion that makes me feel how it takes to be compassionate, to be generous, to be respectful, to be a principle-minded person. Ethical principles. My emotion. God is always in the emotion of life, not in the conception of life. That's why God always comes into our life to make us feel Him from our heart. The word heart is an emotion. God always allow you to feel Him from your heart, which is He always make you to feel Him from your emotion so that you can be able to address Him to the world. That's why I'm always affected by emotion. I'm always affected by emotion. And this has been the advantage that I have over every place that I go, over my friends, every decision I make. I always have an influence over things because I understand how it takes to touch emotion. And that's the foundation of my life. And I want you to go today and study what is necessary to accept and what is unnecessary to accept. Because it's not all that passes you. You must accept as a correction. It's not all that you must listen to become the correction of your life. There are some things that you must let go, and there are some things you must accept. Because beautiful things are always destructive in appearance to take you away from your path. And you must understand what your path is, so that when unnecessary thing comes, you can be prepared to handle the change of life. And today, I want to tell you, go home and make the decision. Restructure your life as a transitional life. To take the path that life has prepared you to be. Thank you. Thank you.